Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to the Blissful Living Podcast. This is the Queen of Feeling Fabulous, Dr. Rochel Marie Lawson. And boy, do I have a show in store for you today. You all know that I like to bring the juice, and I like my guests to be juicy. This is one of my mentors back in the day always used to say that was one of her favorite words, juicy. But while we get situated, I want to give you all some instructions. First of all, if you like the show, please subscribe and share the show. But when you subscribe, you get advanced notification of the guests, and you give a little bit of more access and insight to the workings of what we do here on Blissful Living for You podcast. So subscribe to the show and then share the show. And then also, while we're getting situated and taking care of business, I want you all to find a place to sit, get something to write with, your favorite pen, piece of paper, notebook, journal, whatever it is. Your favorite beverage. Today, I'm drinking a citrus mint green juice. And tell your family to give you just a few moments so you can engage and embrace and absorb the wisdom that's going to be shared on the show with you today. And while you're doing that, let me take care of business. I want to thank our first sponsor, Blissful Living for You, at Blissful Living, the number 4, the letter U.com. Check them out. If you're really wanting to improve your wellness in a holistic manner, you want to check out Blissful Living for You. If you are curious about Ayurveda and how it can help you to have that elevated mindset, wisdom, and attract wealth into your life, then you want to check out Blissful Living for You. Or if you're just curious about all the other stuff they have going on, the live events, the virtual events, the books you can get, the freebies, finding out your unique essence and how you flow and how you're meant to ebb and flow. And when you're in balance, you do it. And when you're out of balance, you don't. And why? You want to check out Blissful Living at Blissful Living, the number 4, the letter U.com. The next sponsor is All Day Cable Incorporated. All Day Cable Inc. is a telecommunications installation company located in the heart of Silicon Valley. They service small, medium, and large corporations, and they install voice data, fiber optic cabling, and all things network distribution. How we telecommunicate today. They've been in business since 1990, and they're known as a premier telecommunications installation company, and they're woman-owned. So if you're looking to do business with a premier telecom company that's woman-owned, then you want to check out All Day Cable Inc. that's located in the heart of Silicon Valley at alldaycableinc.com. Okay, so now my guest is Brownell Landrum, and we are going to be diving into some really good stuff. But let me tell you a little bit about her. She's an author, inventor, songwriter, and explorer of the metaphysical mysteries. Ooh. In addition to being an author of We Meet Again trilogy, which is an epic reincarnation mystery love story. Ooh. And the end, a love story to the universe. She is the creator of the Hero's Playbook for the Hero in All of Us, a fun, interactive journal that takes the participants through steps to becoming a hero and your hero. And so we're going to dive into the Hero's Playbook in our conversation today. And for the Hero in All of Us, or the Metaphysical Mysteries, Brownell is going to bring it to us. So welcome to the show, Brownell. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm so happy to be here. And it's just, we're going to have fun.
We are happy, me and all my personalities. I'm happy to have you as well. I love the topic. And so I want to jump right in. Tell us about the Hero's Playbook for the Hero in All of Us.
Yeah. So here's what it looks like, just to give you an idea. And I guess it's probably backwards, but you can still see is if you look at it, you can see it's all kinds of activities. So it's not a fill in the blank journal thing, but it is a lot of different kinds of activities. And when you're talking about bliss, right?
Well, we're going to be right back with Brownell. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back to the Blissful Living Podcast because we're going to dive more into this Hero's Playbook and how we can be the hero in our life. So we'll be right back. Okay, and so now we are back to the Blissful Living Podcast. We've come back from our break and we're talking to Brownell about the Hero's Playbook. Now, she was sharing that it's a book where it's not just like a coloring book. It's actually that leads us on a journey to becoming our hero. So continue on.
Okay, so sorry about that. That was my mistake.
No worries.
And so basically, when you're talking about following your bliss, right, that a lot of that comes from Joseph Campbell, right? And the hero with 1,000 faces. And so if you know anything about the Joseph Campbell, he traced mythology back to kind of the beginning of time and found kind of a story of a structure for becoming a hero. And a lot of movies we see and a lot of books we read kind of follow this strategy of what's called the hero's journey. And what I did was I took that and created a workbook, playbook kind of thing for people to go through with a lot of different activities to kind of help you bring that out in yourself. And you mentioned to your listeners to have a pen and paper. So if here's one that you could do just kind of out of the gate, that's one of the activities in here, is if you draw a 4 square, right, with 2 squares on the top and 2 squares on the bottom, and at the top of one of them, it will say want, and the top of the other one will say don't want. And then the first row is have and don't have, right? Oh. So then you start looking at the things that you want that you have, right? And those are the things that are probably currently giving you bliss, right? And making you happy, right? Yeah. And we kind of take those for granted sometimes. So that's where we need to have appreciation and start thinking, I am so glad I have this. I'm so glad I have this time. I'm so glad I have this, whatever, health, And so those are the things you want that you have. And then the other column is things that you don't want that you have, right? Those are the things we work at trying to get rid of. And then the next one is the things you want that you don't have. And we spend a lot of time thinking about the things that we want that we don't have. And I'll get to that in a second. And then the last one is things that you don't want and don't have that we really don't think about too much, about how glad we are that we don't have to deal with this or that. And there's so many people with other problems. And so it's one of the activities in there to start really thinking about and listing all the things that would fit in those categories. And then once you realize what you want, then you have to go on this adventure to get them. And you got to go on this journey or this adventure to say, well, what are the obstacles in the way? And who are the villains or the antagonists that might block you, or the naysayers or yaysayers that are on your path? So it takes you through all those kinds of lots of little fun activities to learn about yourself better. And if you're a writer, it's like gold to help you understand your characters and your writing.
So let me ask you this. I love it. I love it because, in our heads, we always have, we know what we want. We know what we don't want. And then there's a step in the middle where we think we want it, but when we get it, we really don't want it or didn't realize it was going to be that much. And so, it's like, dang, I really thought I wanted this. I really thought I wanted the Bentley, but I didn't know that the expenses on keeping the Bentley was going to be this much. So now that I have it, I really don't want it. That kind of stuff.
That is a great example. Yes. Yeah. Well, because you think, oh, well, if I want this, but then you realize you might bring on things that you didn't have that you didn't want. Like, oh, I'm going to have to pay this much more insurance, or I have to park in a certain way that I didn't park before, or
should I have a chauffeur if I'm driving if I have a Bentley, should I be driving it or should I have a chauffeur? All that kind of stuff. And so I like it because it kind of helps you to take what's in your head and put it down on the paper so you can see it. And sometimes that can be such an eye-opening thing for us to do. Now, who do you think would benefit most from the Hero's Playbook?
Well, I think there's the first obvious thing is if you're ever looking to write a memoir or a story, right? Because it does take you through who's the hero, what do they want, what do they not want, what are their, I like to go into the Enneagrams. I don't know if you've done much with Enneagrams, but you go into that and you realize what are their fears, what are the things that are getting in the way. And so if you're writing a story, it's perfect because then you're starting to think, well, who is my hero and what are their flaws and what quirks they have and that kind of thing. But just for anybody, I'm just finishing the what I call the mentor's manual, so that if somebody's a coach or consultant or whatever or trainer and they want to take others through it, then it'll help them learn how to do that. But you could take an executive leader through it, or you could use it in therapy or youth counseling or all kinds of different things. So
pretty much it could be utilized. So for instance, entrepreneurial ladies,
yes,
we can use it to create strategy in our businesses, or use it with our teams to help our teams create strategies that are in alignment with the goals of the organization, right?
That's right.
I like that. I mean, I'm always into the off the beaten path stuff.
Well, and it is. And you start looking at, well, who's the opposition and what are the stakes in the game? And who wants it more, right? Because you sit there and think, oh, I want this. But if there's somebody else up for that job or up for that product launch or trying to block you from whatever you're trying to accomplish, I bring a lot of movies and things like that tied into it. So you can go, I don't know if you're a fan of the Avengers and that whole big thing, but Thanos had his goals, right? But then we had the Avengers with their goals, and Thanos' goal was a bigger goal, right? He wanted to save the world by figuring out how to, cull the population, because that was the way to save the world. But the Avengers had personal goals, like it really mattered to them individually to save these things. And so it gets into all that stuff, but it also has just really fun activities and things to there's like word searches, but then there's looking at cards and coming up with stories to go with that. And so it makes it all really, really fun. And as you know, in business or anything else, creativity is the source of bliss, right? And the creativity is where we can open up possibilities that we didn't have before.
I love it. Yeah. And creativity is where the unlimited possibilities become possible. So I love that. Now, what are some of your favorite activities in this playbook? Because, you shared the I want to say, when you said the 4 squares, it reminded me of 4 squares when we were kids. And,
I call it the motivation model.
Anymore, right? They're always on their computer or whatever. But what are some of your favorite activities in the book?
Well, I'm just literally just opening up one. And this one, it says the doors of perception. So it looks like doors, right? The door. But basically on this one, it is going out and asking friends, what archetypes do they think you embody?
Oh, wow.
So before this, where there was a discussion about archetypes, right? But we're all kind of an archetype in someone else's life.
Okay, so for those who don't know, or maybe talk, because I know what you're talking about. I'm a woo-woo girl.
Well, you're queen. You're the queen archetype. You're your quintessential queen archetype. Right.
Explain to the listeners what an archetype is for those that don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's depending on where you go, like Carl Jung was really into archetypes, and he had maybe 12 that were key, or Joseph Campbell gets in, but Carolyn Mace gets into 80 something archetypes. Yeah. So there could be anything. So it could be anything from a nerd to a sage, to a trickster, to a saboteur. In fact, Carolyn Mace says that we all have somewhere in us a saboteur archetype. She said we all carry like 12. So there's a list of, I've almost got almost 100 archetypes that could be into these categories. And so we all might be some of them, right? And there's one, for want of a better word, she uses the one prostitute. And that's not about what you think, but it is about what are we willing to do for money?
Oh, hold it right there. We got to take a break. I love that. Hold it. Okay, you guys, we will be right back to the Blissful Living Podcast with Brownell, and we want to hear about that one. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Okay, it's the Queen of Feeling Fabulous, Rochel Marie Lawson, and Brownell was telling us about the archetypes of the architects. Archetype
is an archetype too. Somebody who builds things, right? That's an archetype.
But the one you mentioned was the prostitute. And what are you willing to do for money? So that piqued my curiosity. So basically, there's a lot of different archetypes, and we can be a little bit of each one, but I do believe, is there a dominant one that's more out front and center, like, me being the queen, and I always thought I was a queen. I was called princess when I was a little girl as a nickname. So I thought I was a queen in training. And look,
there you go. Yeah.
Is there one that more, are there some that are more dominant and then some that just kind of sit back in the cut and then just pop out when we need them or when we explore them?
Yeah, I think there was kind of a blend, right? I think we all have something that, what are we willing to do for money? That's part of who our basic nature is. Right. We may all have a saboteur, that's something that gets in our way. So in other words, I wouldn't necessarily say this person is a saboteur. They could be, but we all have some of those elements to us. So I think that's one of the things that's fun about that activity is that you would go and ask other people, what do you think they are? Or what do you think I am? And you get some feedback from others on those archetypes. So you might be queen, but you also might be, the wise woman, right? Yeah. So you may have both of those. So one minute you're queen, which is kind of like, I own my power and I know how to lead and I can lead with this beautiful feminine power. And you also might be, hey, I'm the one you pull aside and I'm going to give you the wisdom. And that may not be the same archetype as the queen.
Right.
That makes sense, right?
Yes, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's an example of one of the activities. And if you're using it for yourself, obviously, big insight, right? And if you're using it for a character, then all of a sudden you realize you're not just writing a one-dimensional character. You're writing a character that has all these different aspects to them. And that's what makes somebody more interesting.
I love it. I love that we can use this in our life, the playbook, the hero's playbook, but we can also use it if you're a writer like me or you. We can use it to develop our storylines for our characters and our whole, beginning to end with our book. And so I love stuff like this because, for one, it's unique. Two, it's individualized. Me having the playbook is my personal playbook, my personal hero playbook, and it won't be the same for you or for Sandra or Lisa or Mary Jane or whoever. It's our own individual hero's playbook. So we get this beautiful, unique essence that sometimes we don't pay a lot of attention to and we hide in the cut, so to speak, that gets to come out and evolve in the hero's playbook. So I want to ask you this.
Yeah.
How can the hero's playbook help us save help us save our lives, but not only that, but help us to have more of a blissful life?
Yeah, well, I mean, it takes you through the process, to become a hero, right? And of course, however you want to define a hero, and there's some activities to say what you define as a hero. But it also helps us understand that we become stronger through obstacles. And through overcoming obstacles, we become more, resolute. We learn more about ourselves when we are faced with challenges. And so I think that is the better way to bliss than thinking, I don't want to have problems and I'm going to put them over there. It's like, no, wait a minute. I know that going through this problem or this challenge is going to get me to a happier place, and it's going to make me stronger. And when you know that, I have an activity in here that I call reverse optimism. You'll love it. And basically, when you're able to look back at the things that happened to you and go, thank goodness that happened. It was hard and I was challenged and I had to go through a lot, but I'm so glad because it got me where I am.
Oh, man. Girl, I have some stories like that in my life. Yeah. It's true. When you're going through something that's really hard, difficult, emotional, spiritually, physically, mentally, when you get to the other side, and it's not always right away. It could be years later. You realize, had I not went through that, I wouldn't be here doing what I'm doing today. And so okay, so we got to get this book, and I'm going to share. She's going to share with you in just a few minutes on how we can get this book, because I'm a book junkie. I probably have I have a lot of books, probably over 2,000 books. And every book becomes like I can't give this one away. I can't give this away. I read it 35 years ago, but I'm like, I can't. I remember like my nursing books. I said, once I finish nursing school, these 50-pound books, I don't care. I don't care how much room they take up in the closet or in the garage. I am not giving these books up. And every time I look at those books, at one of the books or any of them, it takes me back to that time in nursing school when I thought, you know what? I'm up late. I've got to get this care plan done for these 7 patients that my teacher just dropped on me at 10 p.m. And, I got to be in the clinical at 6 a.m. And how am I going to do this? But it reminds me of the tenacity and the dedication I gave to not only myself, but to those that I was meant to serve as a nurse. And it warms my heart. But that's one story. But there's stories like that. You sometimes we often forget. And so having something like this helps us to remember that the queens never lose their crown in the midst of having challenges. We just keep on walking and keep on going. Okay, so now I want to ask you this. I think we do have to take one quick break and we'll be right back. But I'm loving this conversation, Brownell. And so you all that are watching, listening, stay tuned. We'll be right back after this break. Okay, this is Dr. Rochel Marie Lawson, the Queen of Feeling Fabulous, and we're back to the Blissful Living Podcast. And so I want to ask you this. I see that you're also a writer and an explorer of the metaphysical. I don't know why I keep saying medical. It's on my head. The metaphysical mysteries. Yeah. What exactly does that mean?
Yeah, well, it's funny because many years ago I met a man and I was like, oh, I've got this answer to this, riddle of life or something. And he's looked to me and he said, Brownell, he said, you're an explorer and you'll always be an explorer. And I loved that because it is true. It's like, I'm always going to be looking for more answers and to go deeper. And so I write a lot of different, as you mentioned, I've got a new novel series that came out last year. And it's epic reincarnation mystery about a famous couple from history that's reincarnated to today. It's kind of like Da Vinci Code meets Outlander with a past life kind of message. And then the one that ended, which is really kind of personal and really, really powerful and it's written from the point of view of what I call the upstairs and how they are trying to get these two souls together and trying to coordinate the logistics of trying to get this relationship on Earth to work. And so I love looking at things from that point of view. It's like, I feel like you don't have to believe in time travel to enjoy Back to the Future, right? You don't have to believe in reincarnation to enjoy stories that kind of take you to these places that maybe you haven't thought of before. Right. And for me, for a writer, it's so much fun because I can sit there and I can go, okay, here's the couple today, but who were they in another lifetime? And who were they 500 years ago? Or who were they 800 years ago? And how does that all tie into who they are today? So I love getting into those kind of out there stories, the afterlife and reincarnation and all that kind of good stuff.
I love that stuff. It's super cool. I always think, I lived in a past life a couple times and, what was I in my past life? Well, one was I was a queen.
Sure. You had to have been a queen. For sure. No, seriously.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I'm completely into the metaphysical stuff too. And so it's like interesting when things come up, or because I write as well, I might be writing something and then it's like, I don't want to, spook anybody, but then it's like I'm encompassed by something, some entity, some spirit, some divine being, and my writing takes a whole different language, so to speak. It's like I'm writing, but it's not my words. The words are being channeled through me.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, this is a message. Where is this coming from? Who is with me? Who, I do believe
and that's bliss.
Yeah, I do. It's so like empowering and cool because, oftentimes we think when people die or family, they're dead. A lot of people believe that, but I believe that, they come back. They come back. When you see butterflies flying around you, it means one of your loved ones, your deceased loved ones is coming in and say hi and, let you know I'm okay. And, butterflies are carefree and fancy. And that's how I believe, like when we pass on, we're carefree and fancy. We have no attachment to anything on this planet, and so it's super cool to explore this. And so quickly tell us how we can get that book, that playbook.
I'm Brownell Landrum. I'm the only Brownell Landrum in the world. So it's easy to Google and find me. The Hero's Playbook is on Amazon. It's only available in print because you have to go through it, right? You have to fill in the blanks and go through the activities. My other books you can get on Kindle if you're into that as well. But you can find me, and I have a Facebook group called Life is a Trip group. So if people are into reincarnation and spiritual stories and stuff, that's a place for sharing stories. But I have a website, brownelllandrum.com, and you can find me on Amazon, all of that stuff.
Looking for you and they can't find you, they're not really trying that hard.
Yeah, it's pretty easy because I'm the only one.
Okay, I love it. Well, thank you, Brownell, for being a guest on the Blissful Living Podcast. This has been super cool. I love stuff like this because, as you can tell, I love stuff like this. I think it's just really cool. I think sometimes we think our wisdom is caught up in the knowledge that's in front of us today, but it isn't. It isn't. It's wisdom that comes from the ages, and it's just all about how we are open, if we're open to receive, then we're gifted with that wisdom. So I love, and I got to get that book because I love book. Again, I shared, I love books. I got to get the book. All right, all of you. This is Dr. Rochel Marie Lawson, the Queen of Feeling Fabulous. I want to thank our sponsors, Blissful Living for You at blissfulliving4u.com, as well as All Day Cable Incorporated at alldaycableinc.com. And as you know, I like to say, I'm wishing you peace to your mind, tranquility to your spirit, and a fabulous journey with the medical physical in your life. Until next time, be healthy, wealthy, and wise. And don't forget to subscribe to the show. Goodbye for now, everybody.